Ryan, it's Friday. Guess what date? I already messed it up. We're keeping this in there. We're keeping this in there. All
Okay.
right, Ryan, it's Friday. What does that mean now
That
for
means we
us
have a
and our
Friday
podcast?
recap, girl. That means we have a Friday recap. Oh my goodness. This is what shows you how rusty we are when we haven't been
I
behind a
had one
camera in a
job.
few weeks.
I had one job.
Ah, it's okay. It's all right. That's for the, you know what? This is just going to springboard us into our conversation for
Yeah.
this week about epic failures, and people get to see the real deal, the behind the scenes with
Yeah.
Elena and
This hasn't
Ryan.
kicked
So,
in yet.
well, first of all, it is good to see your face.
Yeah.
Haven't we haven't connected in a few weeks, except for basically via text message, and we both live very crazy lives, and Elena and I wanted to try a different format. From our podcast, and
Hmm.
similar to the post that she put, that she made a few weeks ago, it's a pause on purpose. It was us recognizing that we weren't connecting with as many people as we hoped that we were going to be connecting with, and we kind of lost our voice a little bit, I think. And I think some of what Elena and I were doing kind of felt almost forced, and that's just not us. I think we thrive when we're just in our natural state, and when we're real, and when you kind of just see the
We have a bourbon in our hands.
yeah, or I got
That's
coffee
what's
right
wrong with the
now.
picture.
Yeah, no doubt. We need bourbon. But anyway, recap. A lot has gone on with you. So I
Yeah.
just thought, why don't we just catch up and let me know kind of where you're at, where you are mentally. What's going on with the family, what's going on with business. I know that there's a lot on your plate. So
Yeah.
let's jump
Well,
into it.
business is finally starting to pick up. I mean, it was freaking ghost town for 2 months, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how I get. I get antsy as all get out when it's
Mm-hmm.
just stuff. I mean, money's going out for business but money's not coming in. And it's always the time of the year. And like my therapist every year is like, you do this every year in January and February. And then the next month it's like, I'm bipolar, I suppose, because the next month I'm like, I love life. Life's great. So,
Yeah. But then your world's on fire, and I think I think if the world's not on fire for Elena and I, we just get bored. I
yeah.
honestly think, obviously that we take on the stress and all the things that come with it. And, your situation's a little bit different because you're 100% commission based, and now your husband is as well. So
Yeah.
when the bills keep coming in and you're still putting money into your business, and you're not seeing that you're not seeing the initial return on that money, it can get very stressful for sure.
Right.
So absolutely can understand that. But I think just in general, we do. Your therapist is probably spot on. We go through these cycles every single year,
Hmm.
and I think just getting out of Q4, going into the new year, weather always plays a factor
Right.
in our business as well. There's a lot of chaos going on in the world right now as well, and it just seems like it's very easy to get distracted with all the outside noise and get in that mental trap of all the additional stresses that we take on, and it's hard
Yeah.
not to wear that emotion on your sleeve
Well,
sometimes.
and the year didn't start as planned. And what I mean by that is, I had some pivots that had to happen with the business. I realized, and I was grateful. I told you I went through the experience with a few sellers, but I'm grateful because it's like literally it was subconsciously or God protect me. Like you're not doing business again this way that you did last year. Last year to show you what you're capable of. This year I'm going to make it purposeful for you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But then the cherry on top in a sarcastic way was in January, we found out Cole had to get a knee replacement. Like his knee drastically declined in December.
Wow.
And I mean, it was a point where he couldn't even walk without a cane, even in our house.
Right.
So that was definitely like worrisome. And then he got his knee replaced last week, and it's been night and day difference. Like he drove yesterday. He's doing open houses this weekend. He's already working with clients. So it's like, it was one of those things I feel like spiritually. I actually was up crying about it last night. Don't tell Cole. But where you're just grateful because I feel like that was God protecting us. Like just hang
Sure.
in there, have the faith. And now I'm getting teary eyed. But it's like I have better things planned for you. And I thought, what happened last year, and I look into this year, I'm like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it this year. But God's like, no, you tell me what you want in life, and I'm trying to give that to you. Let me give that to you. You know what I mean?
No, we ignore this. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and it's okay to get teary eyed because I think that he's talking to us now more than ever. To be honest with you,
Hmm.
I'll let my wife and I just had this conversation a couple days ago where we really we're just talking about how grateful we truly are, and
Hmm.
how it's so easy to lose sight of that because you're always chasing the next thing, and you don't think to yourself like, I've got a happy marriage. I've got a wife that I'm more attracted to today than I was 25 years ago when I started dating her. I got good kids with their heads on their shoulders. They get good grades. They're healthy. We have laughs in our family. We have joy in our family. And it's very easy to go, everyone has that. We take for granted what we have on a regular basis, and we just assume sometimes the world has that because we have our blinders on to our own little world and our own little bubble. And I think that you just start to really recognize how blessed you truly are if you have those things alone. If I had nothing else in this world, and I had a happy family, and I had healthy children, and I had good kids that I raised into be good people, and I had my health, and I had years with my wife, and I had a marriage where we still had affection towards each other, we still have attraction towards each other, we still are each other's best friends, all of those type of things, it's really easy to take for granted. And I think we also tend to forget how many people would trade lives with us in a second, right? And that's because you and I are so driven financially. Absolutely. We want to make more money. We want to have more security. But you and I chase money for different reasons than most. We don't care about the flash. We don't care about what's, what cars we drive or what clothes we have or the status. Correct. We don't care about those things. Those things are completely meaningless to us. We look at it as, how do we set up the next generation? Yeah. How are we breaking this cycle so that it's not even for Kian. You're going to give Kian a nice head start, but what kind of life are you going to be able to produce for your grandchildren? Right. It's someone taking that step to break that chain, but break the chain not only financially but spiritually, and realize how much gratitude we should have every single day, and how we should just be so thankful for what we have and embrace what we have and not take it for granted.
Well, and so like my therapist, I've been going to him for 3 years, and I actually kind of call him like a life coach because he really is that for me. But he says we all have our little focus, right? And he's like, we're always so zoomed in, and things look so much bigger than they really are. But if you just zoom out a little bit, you realize your problems really aren't that bad,
No.
And honestly, it's kind of weird because I'm 35 and I shouldn't think this way. But yesterday we were driving home with my son, so we had no in-person appointments yesterday. So Cole and I are like, we just want to hang out with our little dude because once he starts school, we can't do stuff like that, And it's reality's hitting that he's starting school in the fall because we're trying to plan trips. I'm like, nope, can't do it then. He's got school. Nope, can't do it then. He's got school. And so it's really hitting that time is really flying by.
It is.
And so I'm driving home with Kian yesterday. And I'm just like, he asked me the question, how old am I? And of course I'm like, well, how old do you think mommy is? And he said 84. I was like, love that for me. And then, and I was like, well, mommy's always 30 years older than you. And so I was like, if you're 5, how old is mommy? He's like 35. And I was like, so when you're 10, how old will be mommy? And of course he goes 30. He goes 30 and 10. And I go, so you mean 40?
Yeah.
And so anyways, but when he started to say those numbers in my head, and I was like, daddy's 41, so he'd be that much older. I'm like, if you think about it, like, we don't have as much time as we all think we do.
No.
And I just started chipping away at the years. And then I was like, next thing I was like, then I'm pushing my 50s. And the next thing I'm pushing my 60s. I'm my parents' age now,
Yeah.
And it started freaking me out. Like, I don't have enough time. So the things that I'm worrying about, like, I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I have that is not worth my time to stress about because
It's
I just
not.
want to do life with my family.
It's not, and your headspace is where it's supposed to be. You talk about time, and I reflect on my son's 18 and technically adult. We had to sign over paperwork that we literally have no more legal responsibility over him now that he's 18. It's very
Oh,
weird,
did
right?
Allison cry?
Oh yeah. And
Oh,
I coach. I think I told you before, or we may have talked about it on a previous episode, that Dylan asked me to coach his basketball team
yeah.
this winter, and all these pictures start popping up on my memories of when I started coaching him when he was 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. I mean, literally since he could dribble a basketball, I coached him. And he kind of went away from the sport, really focused on fishing, focused on his fitness, going into the gym and doing all those things. And, him asking me to do it, and we just finished the season. It's crazy because I led him to 3 championships coaching him, and we never won one. three second place finishes, and you work your tail off all year, and you do everything. We literally were undefeated until the championship game. So 7-1 is how we finished the year, and But I told Dylan, I said, it's that last memory is over,
Yeah.
and there's a time in your life when you don't recognize it's the last time. And I told Dylan, I said, just think about when was the last time you went out and played with your friends in the yard, when you played with the neighbors. There was a last day, and none of you ever were aware of it. It just faded away. It eventually just faded away to where we don't play outside anymore. We don't hang out with the
Yeah.
neighbors. There's an age gap. I'm older now, and now I go. Dylan's about to turn that chapter, and he's about to turn that chapter into adulthood now. And as you look at your life with Kian, you're kind of at the starting. You're at the starting gates, and I'm at the closed chapter. And
Yeah.
it's been a beautiful story. And now we get to create more stories. But Dylan even texted me, and he's like, "Dad, this is hitting me. You're never going to coach me again. Like
Yeah.
it's never going to happen again. This was the last." This is the last go. So, you start checking these things off your list as you get older, and you say, wow, these are moments I thought that I had so many ahead of me with him, and now they're gone, right? So now you got to create new memories. You got to force how to make more memories. You got to figure out stuff around his time and his college and his work and all these things. Now you have to schedule time with your son. And I'm struggling with it. I'm struggling
I'm
with it
sure.
big time. But I also am excited about watching him grow and watching him flourish
Well,
and
and,
watching
and
him move
I'm
on
sure
with
you
his
filled
life.
with a lot of pride in like who you raised. He's a good kid. He does stuff that 18-year-old kids do,
Sure,
but he's a good kid
he
through and
is.
through.
He is,
And I
and
was thinking about this yesterday, because Kian also he's been like making me think about life a lot lately. But he also said, "Mommy, when I get older, something about having a kid." And I was like, "Well, buddy, yeah, when you get older, you probably have a kid too. But for now, you just focus on being a kid. You enjoy
right.
your childhood. Mommy will be the adult. You just focus on your childhood and have the best childhood." And I was thinking about childhoods, right? And so then I was like, maybe it is a blessing that you're surrounded by friends who have kids who are older, right? Because Allison's been doing her senior Sunday, and a lot of the photos she's posting are Kian's age now,
I know.
right?
I know.
And it hits you because I'm like, maybe that's having friends with kids who are older, maybe is there for a reason because you guys are making me be like, do not waste time. Do not waste time. And it is so easy for people in my career to get so caught up in the stupid awards and the status of the freaking industry that they literally waste so much time with their family. And it's a battle mentally for me, Ryan, every day. It is a battle for me every day, being like, I should be more advanced in my career. But
You
then
know what?
also, I'm like, but
Yeah.
I am very heavily involved with my son for how high up I am in my career.
No, you know
You
what's
know?
crazy is that at the end of the day, if you have your priorities straight and you have your life lined up, the other things come, right? Your business is
Mhm.
still flourishing. You're still doing a phenomenal job. You're just having to work harder. And there's points in your life where you have to just take more on, and you have to be
Mhm.
willing to take more on, and you're in that boat because you have a young toddler, you have a young kid. So as my kids have gotten older, the time has become more free, right? So
Mhm.
it's just different chapters of where we are. And I can tell you that, you know just because, comparing yourself, you're one of the top performers with everything else that you're juggling, right? So it's like whoever said it's one or the other.
Mhm.
I don't know who came up with that. I don't believe that you have to be so obsessed with work that the only way you can find success and make a good living and make good money, and when I say good money that can change the trajectory of your life
Generations.
and
Yeah.
the generations behind you life.
Yeah.
I think you and I were certainly not there today, but I think we're doing a lot of the things that are going to get us there, right? We're making a lot of the right moves that are getting us there. And
Mhm.
I feel like I've put more priority on my time with my family and my kids in the way you are now. And
Mhm.
hindsight's always 2020. You can always look back and go, man, I should have done this, or there was that fork in the road, and I chose left when I should have chose right, or I should have told my bosses no more, early on. And you're still trying to figure it out. But to the point you were just saying, and you and I have talked about this before. And sometimes I think it's hard that it's hard for us to remember sometimes. This is our first life too.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're still figuring it out the same way I am, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make a lot of them along the way. It's just how do you minimize those mistakes and how do you take accountability for those mistakes? And that's something I put on my kids really hard is take accountability for the decisions that you make. Doesn't mean that they're always going to be right. You're going to make a lot of wrong ones. But if you take accountability for those decisions, things are going to work out. And I think, you're living proof of that. And I'm living proof of that. And I think that we've made a conscious effort of what success looks like to us. And I think more people than not probably would prefer the life that we have because we have a good balance of work and family, but family has always been priority one, no matter what. And this can all be gone tomorrow. And if my family is not whole, if we don't have each other, if we don't have the love, if we don't have the respect, if we don't have each other's backs, what am I doing it for anyway?
Well, it feels like I always naturally gravitate towards putting my family first because before I was pregnant, 2019, before 2020 was, of course, the pandemic, but also the year I got pregnant in February. Had my child in October, so I was pregnant the whole time, pretty much. That was the year that I just started seeing my business really rise. Like I pushed it to just under 8 million. The next year I should have predicted to already surpass that 10 million, right? And kept doing this. But I became a mother. And I had to really choose between being a mom or continuing to build my business. And so my business did this, and then it started to kind of do this until 2024. And I had that break, and I was like, because that's when Kian was 3-4 years old. That's a very demanding age, you know. And at that time, Cole was still traveling with soccer, and it's not like he wasn't trying to be a present dad. His career at the time just didn't answer to that, you know. Right. So I was juggling pretty much being a stay-at-home mom, but also a full-time career woman.
Sure.
And I got ripped into half, right?
Yeah. No, what it did was it made you who you are today, right?
Yeah.
So, you talked about God earlier, and you talked about just how he's hitting you emotionally because you're seeing things take shape, and it's literally how you look at life. And I think, over the last couple of years, I've just really leaned into positivity. I've really leaned into working on myself and loving myself more and trying to be a better husband and a better father and a better employee. And those that are counting on me try to live up to the very best that I have to give. And I think by just looking at it from that lens, things have on paper look like they've naturally just fallen into place for me. But what it is years of what you just went through, right? And you had to go through that tough year or tough couple years to know what you were made of, to see how strong you were, to see how strong your and Cole's marriage were. So when you start thinking about these tests, right, look at what you learned from that process. And we say it all the time. We learn so much more from our failures than we do of our successes. The success is a byproduct of going through all these failures. And most people don't want to go through the hard. Most people are so scared to fail. Yeah. Like this podcast, you and I talk about it regularly. This what we're doing today may not be seen by the masses for 10 years down the road.
I'm boost the shit out of this episode.
Yeah, but who cares?
$100 on that thing.
Right, but I love it. But who cares?
You don't even know what that means because you don't know the terms.
I don't, because I get on here to have a conversation with my friend and to catch up with my friend.
Yeah.
And I want to know what's going on with you. And I want to know that you're okay. And I want to make sure mentally you're okay. So are you struggling with stuff today?
Before you do that, I want to tell you something you're going to be proud of because you just said something that I know you would love this. So yesterday, Kian had soccer practice, okay? And as you know, he is mine and Cole's son, so he's super competitive, all right? So, and we're trying to teach him how to balance out his competitive side. So anyways, yesterday they're doing the shooting game and he was at the end and he lost and he threw a fit on the field. He had it, when you lose, you have to go sit in the corner, cheer your friends on. He sat in the corner, of course he starts crying. I'm like, oh, I got so frustrated. And let's be honest, as a parent, you're embarrassed, right? So finally got up there, I was like, buddy, you cannot be a poor sport. You better cheer on your teammates. So obviously he threw a tantrum. It was at the very end of the practice. So we get in the car. And at first I was like, oh, I just want to yell at him right now. I'm so mad. But then, because another kid did it too. And so then I look back on him before we start driving. I go, listen, Kian, because he finally calmed down. I was like, you calm? Can mommy talk to you? I was like, the best winners are also the best losers. You cannot be number one if you don't learn and accept losing. And so I used mommy and daddy, and I was like, do you think mommy and daddy are as good as they were in soccer because they never lost? He goes, no. I was like, we lost a lot. I lost a lot of times. And it's okay to be upset. I was like, but you got to look at those as like, okay, this is going to make me even better. And so
Right.
I was like, so you have to remember, you can't what? And he goes, you can't be the best winner if you can't be the best loser. And I was like, I feel like everybody needs to understand that at such an early age,
No,
you
they need to
know?
hear it. And it's funny that you talked about this losing thing because Lou Holtz, which is a legendary football coach that I've followed, and I think that he just is everything right with this world.
Hmm.
Just from an integrity standpoint, his outlook on life, his outlook on his family, his outlook on winning, his outlook on just how to treat people has always been spot on. So if you don't know him, I highly recommend going to look up some Lou Holtz thing. If you don't get motivated from Lou Holtz, then there's something wrong with you. But he literally made a comment years ago, in an interview, and he literally said that 90% or 90%, 10% of your life is what happens to you. 90% of it's how you react to it.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
And he's spot on. And
Hmm.
it doesn't mean you're not going to learn painful lessons. Some people learn the lessons earlier than others. Some people have to take the hard road, and they just are too hard headed to change. But I could just tell you, from my perspective, I think you're spot on, and you're teaching Keenan the right way. Is okay, how are you going to react from it? Okay, you lost. So what most people do is they're always looking for someone to blame. And we talked
Hmm.
earlier about accountability. It's okay, well, my teammates didn't. Addison does this a lot, right? Well, she dropped. Well, she made a mistake. Well, she's
Hmm.
not working as hard. Okay, so you can blame that person, or you could pull that person aside and say, look, how can I help you be better?
It's
Where
practice.
are you struggling?
Hmm.
Let me practice with you. Even if that means more work for me, Dad. Yes, that means more work for you. But stop looking at it from what are you losing, right? And
Hmm.
too many people get wrapped into, like I said, the tit for tat, or I only want to give my effort. I can't.
Hmm.
No, you can't control the efforts of others, but you can
Hmm.
control how you react to that situation. And if
Right.
you really want to be a champion, if you really want to be the best, if you really want to win, if that's the leadership, if that's what you have in your head, then the first step is to try to make everyone around you better.
Hmm.
And I
And I
think
think
you
that's
have
why
to
sports
focus
is
on that.
so, yeah, I think that's why sports is so important for kids, even especially at a young age,
It
you know?
is.
Because I
It
told Kane
is.
the same thing. I said, listen, first of all, this is what practice is for, to make you better. Secondly, I was like, just they're on your team, Keenan. So you might have lost the competition within your team, but if your team is winning, you are winning too, son. You are
Yes.
winning too. That is the beauty of a team. I
Right.
was like, so even though you got out of the game, you still cheer them on because they might score the winning goal in a game that gets you guys to the tournament. You
Yep.
know, it's like,
Yeah.
so I just think sports is so good for kids.
Well, it's
But
critical just
but
for
but it's as
in real
parents'
life.
jobs to not do sports for kids to benefit yourselves because there's a lot of
Yeah.
parents out there that do it and they ruin it for kids.
And I also think that, don't be the person, and again, you and I came up from a different area. We didn't believe in participation trophies. I don't believe
Yeah.
everyone wins. That's
Yeah.
just my mentality. That's the way I grew up. I think, when you have these kids that take losses hard, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
And,
they care.
what ends up people's like, it's okay. You're just doing it for fun. What you're basically doing is you're pouring water on that competitiveness spirit. So I've
Hmm.
never agreed with that. Yes, I want my kids to know, hey, you went out there. Did you do the best you could? Could you have worked harder during the week? Could you have practiced more? Well, yeah. Could you have taken an extra hour towards your practice and been a little bit better this week? Yeah. Okay, so
Hmm.
that's when you have to start looking at yourself and take that accountability and go, okay, what could I have done differently? I think that's the teaching moment, right? Is okay, Kean, you just use him as an example. If they lost, hey, what could you have done differently? Remember when I asked you to go take some extra kicks in the backyard and you wanted to watch cartoons instead? That I'm not saying that's what would have won you the game, but it would have put you one step closer to it. So
Hmm.
it depends on, again, and I tell my kids all the time, freedom of choice is not freedom of consequence. You
Yeah.
chose not to put the effort in. You
Yep.
chose not to work as hard as you could. You chose to blame other people instead of taking accountability for yourself. That's why the result is what it is. And I think
Right.
that's just a mentality shift. And it comes natural to people like you and me. But you see
Yeah.
kids out there, and I'm like, they take losses hard,
Hmm.
and that's not a bad thing. You don't want them to ever be a poor loser or a poor sport. I agree with you 100%. You go shake the other team's hand. You say, job well done. You got me this time. I'm going to work harder so I get you next time.
That's why I teach Ken. I said, get you next time.
Get
I'll
you
get
next
you
time.
next time.
That's it. That's it. So how are you now? I know, like I said, I know things have started off slow. You got Cole. His knee looks like it's recovering better than
Oh my
anticipated. So that's
God.
obviously a win. So how
Yeah,
are
his
you
knee's so good.
doing? handling everything in your world today? How do you feel like you're
Good.
doing?
So I started feeling a little like I was just spread so thin everywhere. And I told Cole, I was like, something's still not in beat. And I knew when he came over, when he got his license right before Thanksgiving. So it's been going on 3 months now, right? And I knew it was going to be like a night and day difference, like a boom, now we're just going to sell $100 million like that, right? There was going to be some learning curves. And I think the learning curve was trying to figure out how to be co-owners, because the one thing I didn't want us to do was be individuals within the brand, and
Mm-hmm.
he and I are not working together. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yep.
And so I told him, I was like, I built a company, and it's one of those where I'm like, if I can't be the brand, I can't be build the brand and build the business and also work the business. Does that make sense? Like I
Right.
can't be
Yeah.
full on selling and then full on branding and
Right.
marketing and teaching and
Right.
growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the last week we've really kind of discussed like, okay, how can we work together with both of our strengths and weaknesses? And so we've kind of realized like I'm just obviously naturally the creator in our marriage and also our business, right?
Right.
He's the one who's disciplined enough to execute the plans, right? And
Well,
he's
and he
more
has
patient.
and he has the right attitude, right? He
Yeah.
has more of that attitude of, hey, things are going to work out just fine. He doesn't hit the panic button too early.
Yeah.
Cole is very glass half full, very person, and
Hmm.
it's that yin to the yang is very, very important for sure.
Hmm.
But I get where you're coming from for sure. But Cole, like me, when it comes to technology and all, it's
Yeah.
amazing, guys, how much stuff Aletta has to tell me. Hey, I loved your reel on Facebook, but you need to get on Instagram. I am going to get on Instagram
I was
this
like, have you
week,
got on
so
it yet?
I need to. So I'm
Oh,
doing it all. But again, it's just it's one of those things where I just I love to connect like this. I love to connect with
yeah.
people real, and I'm trying to lean into who I am as a person, and I'm not trying to lose sight of what I'm into and what kind of the content I want to put out there and the things that I want to do. I don't think I'll
Hmm.
ever lose that, but I do understand the importance of the social media piece. If I
And
truly want to get this message out there in a big way, you've got to be
yeah,
dedicated to it like everything else. So it's something I'm definitely taking on for sure. I'm going to continue to embrace it, uh,
it's a
and
job
I'm
in its
enjoying
own,
it.
Ryan. It's a job.
It is,
And I
sir.
get told all the time, I love your content. And I'm like, I love that. Thank you so much. But to me, and maybe it's a comparison thing, I'm like, my page views, although they have like 50,000 or whatever, I'm like, why aren't they 100,000? Why am I already not at 20,000 followers if my content's that good? You know what
Well,
I
you should
mean?
be thinking to yourself, where were you 6 months ago? Where were you
Well,
a year
yeah.
ago? Where were you a
And
year and a half ago?
I'm still learning. And so I would say now that Cole and I've transitioned, because I told him, I was like, it's too hard for me to be consistent online and then also be super deep in the business, like showing houses, going on appointments, stuff like that. I was like, I can't do both. Right. And
Right.
so you look at these teams that have built this big business, and I started doing some deep diving. And I'm like, okay, this agent has her and her team, but every listing agent number two is a different team member. So she's
Mm-hmm.
built the company. She's the CEO now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she's not doing everything that I was like, I have to do it all. So
You're
that's
not,
been
you're,
part of
you're not
like,
a CEO. Chief executive officer is to make sure everything goes to plan. It's not to be the
yeah,
person that does all the work. So you're at the point where you're in that transition point, and you're in that
and
transition.
it's confusing. I'm not gonna lie, it's
No, it's
confusing.
it's hard, and it's very, very hard to let go. So coming from a corporate world where I've kind of moved up the ladder, right, and I've moved up fairly, especially early on in my career, I moved up fairly quickly. As you kind of move up in the company, there's not a lot of these higher roles, right?
Hmm.
There's those roles. People get to that point, and then they stay there for the last 20 years of their career. And I'm in that transition period, and I can tell you, giving up the control is the hardest thing to do, and separating yourself from the previous job. But I
Hmm.
can tell you again, when I start talking about growth and you start talking about self-reflection and things that you could be doing differently or better, that was something that was certainly I needed to do better. I needed to
Hmm.
let go faster. I needed to let the team behind me have the opportunity to fail. I needed the team below
Hmm.
me to have the opportunity to learn and to make mistakes and to give them that chance. And
Yep.
someone gave me that chance, just like someone gave you the chance, right? And then you
Hmm.
went all in on your real estate business. You grew it. You continue to scale. You continue to grow. But what you need to do is lean into what you're good at. And I can tell you, one of the things I feel like I have gotten really good at over the last couple of years is I've put key people in the right positions based
Hmm.
on their strengths.
Hmm.
And I know where my weaknesses are. And I know, okay, I'm not good at this. So I'm going to teach someone, I'm going to pay someone to do this portion of the job. And when we are all humming and we're all doing our roles for the company, now the
Hmm.
team is a success. And when the
Hmm.
team is a success, the individual success becomes a byproduct, right? Everyone makes more money,
Yeah.
everyone moves up, everyone advances, everyone gets better, everyone creates bigger teams, and you scale and you scale and you scale, right? You're at that point. And, like when Chase took over the branch for the first year, all the sales guys, all the inside people, the warehouse
Hmm.
guys, I had to purposely start going to the office because if I was at the office, they would come to me because I was the leader for so
Yeah.
long. And I had to keep going to them, guys, I'm not your boss.
Hmm.
Chase is your boss. And it was a disrespect to him. And he pulled me aside and he was correct. He was right. And he pulled me aside, took me to lunch one day, and he said, Ryan, you're not allowing me to do my job. You're
Hmm.
hindering me doing my job because you're still so involved, and it's so confusing because even though you and I are lined up on multiple points, there are certain things we disagree on.
Hmm.
And you got the opportunity to run this location the way you wanted to run it. And even though James may not have agreed with the way you were doing certain things, it was your business to run. You
Hmm.
got to let me do the same thing.
Hmm.
And he was spot on correct.
Hmm.
And I leaned into that, and I told the guys, like, guys, it's like a Band-Aid. You have to rip it like a Band-Aid too, where it's like,
Hmm.
guys, I am no longer the superior. Yes, I oversee it, but there's a pecking order into what we do things, and you can't go around Chase, which is now technically your boss, and go to me because I used to be the boss.
Right.
That's where you're at now.
Well,
You've got so much talent on the social
yeah.
media side. You got so much talent on the marketing side. And of course, you're a hell of a salesperson. But how much better are you going to be, Elena, if you teach other people how to sell?
Yeah.
If you
And
teach other people how to sell
cold selling
homes?
skills as
Of
much as more
course.
than anybody. I know it more than you, but I would say you're very close behind me
He is
because
gonna
you
he's
saw him
gonna
in the
kill it.
office.
He's gonna kill
Yeah.
it, and you've got to let him. Now again, you're there to guide, right? And then he's gonna
Right.
be able to put his own spin on it. But how much more of a powerhouse are you gonna be when you know Cole has got it on lock, and you've got your
Yeah.
other team members that have it on lock? Now you could take the Sweetser team and build it to that $100 million brand that you want.
Right.
There's no way possible you're ever going to achieve the goals you want to achieve long term if you keep hanging on to too many things that you are not
Yeah.
supposed to be doing. Bottom
Yeah.
line, and it's
Well,
hard. It's a very
it
very
is.
hard thing to do
Well, because
because it's your name. It's like
yeah,
I'm looking
you
at the wall
built
behind you.
something.
It's your name
Yeah.
behind you. So I
I
get
got
it.
to update that. I built something for 12 years, literally
Hmm.
blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes.
Literally.
Yep.
My own. And most people in my position would not let their husband just come over and be like, okay, you can be co-owner, right? But my husband is my husband for a reason. He is co-owner of everything in my life.
That's
And
correct.
so, because I've talked to other real estate agents who were in my position, they're like, I could never work with my spouse, or they would work for me. And I'm like, yeah, that's like the quickest way to
No.
divorce in my household. If I'm like, here, honey, you come work for me, you know?
No, we're in
Like,
this together. It's 100 and 100, right? It's not
yeah.
50-50. It's 100-100.
And
100%.
so that's what we're trying to figure out now is how can we divvy up our strengths and our weaknesses and fill each other in and still build this brand, build this company. And so that's what we've kind of decided on the last week, especially since his knee is recovering so well because we thought he wasn't going to be back to work till April.
Hmm.
And so I was like, that would make the most sense, especially if we have another kid, Ryan. You
Yeah.
know, it broke my heart having to literally not give Kian my full attention his first 3 months, which is the most important time. You
Well,
know,
just
the
yeah.
dads are important, but the moms
It's not the
are the
same
most
though.
important
It
for the
is
baby.
it is absolutely, and and again we might get ridiculed for that, but that's just how Len and I feel about it, and I really don't care. Right at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's worked. What's worked for my family. That's how I look at life. That's how I view life, and I do agree that the connection with the mother is absolutely critical,
Hmm.
especially at the young age. It's very important, but that's
Hmm.
why you're building what you're building, and you can't lose sight of that, Elena. You can't
Hmm.
lose sight of what you're doing this for long term.
Hmm.
And yes, short term, there may be some hits along the way. Short term, there may be some sacrifices that have to be made. But at the end of the day, what are you doing for a long term? You're doing it so you don't have to be present at every
Hmm.
deal. You're
Hmm.
doing it so you don't have to be present in every open house. Your job is to make sure everything's humming correctly and everything is being done to your standards and everything is the utmost professionalism and they're doing things the way you want them done. But if you teach them correctly, they're going to do those and then they're going to get that sense of success, right? They're going to get a
Hmm.
tight taste of that Elena success. And then there's going to be dumping that same success into your company, into your culture because you've built this team And it's a very, very hard thing to do as a leader. And that's why most people don't want to be leaders, because they are not willing to go through the grind it takes to build teams long term.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something, to be honest with you, I've become addicted to it. I've completely just shifted over the last 2 years from what my individual success was. And I was
Yeah.
always driven by that. And, I've been one of the top guys, if not the top guy in my company, even last year, still right there, given all the other responsibilities I have, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's not what drives me anymore. It really does not. It's seeing my team get the wins that they're getting have become
Mm-hmm.
so much more important to me than anything that I do individually. And I think that shift is what's going to cause the business to blow up long term. Now,
Yeah.
again, does that mean that we still have years of work ahead of us? We've got so much runway ahead of us. We have
Mm-hmm.
so much work to do, but I'm excited for the work that we have to do, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
It's
And
gonna
you're
be
in
worth
that
it,
boat. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cole and I, like, I've just ever since we made that decision. So yeah, that's where I'm at in my life right now. We've finally, like, I think, found that balance to how to really make this work.
Good for you. I'm
And like
proud
I
of
just
you.
felt, I think that's why I was up like crying last night, because I just felt so much gratitude. Cole went to bed and I'm watching this videos. I'm like, why am I crying?
The
And,
emotions finally
like,
coming out of you. What's happening is you're finally softening yourself, and then you're
I don't know
realizing how
what's
much happier you
happening.
become.
I know,
Yeah.
but so much weight was just like lifted, because with his coaching career, obviously I had to take on a lot more. I had to take on a lot more, and that was a choice we made. And then when he got out of coaching, it was an adjustment period for a year and a half, right? And then now that he's in the business, I'm like, we could actually really do what we know best, which is be a team. Like we literally could be a full-on team in this life. The whole life,
Yeah.
right?
And think
Not you're over here
about,
doing your career, I'm over here doing my career. Like we
yes,
literally are building this life together.
how exciting is that, and how rare is it?
Yeah.
So when you start looking at, seriously, this is the stuff I'm talking about. So these are all the signs that most
Yeah.
people ignore. These are all the signs that most people take for granted. And I'm not saying that I don't do it. I do it all the time because it's
Hmm.
easy to. You just get to this point where you're so spoiled by kind of how your life is shaking out, you
Hmm.
don't recognize the Elena today and what you could take on. There's no way you could have done it a year ago. There's no way you could have done it 2 years ago. So at that point, in my opinion, is when you level up, is right when you think you should be quitting, right
Yeah.
when you think you are tired, right when you think you can't take on anymore, right now, right then when you say I should be telling everybody no.
Hmm.
Screw that. That's when you take on more.
Yeah.
That's when you say yes more. That's when you say I'm taking this on. I can do it. I can figure this out. And then you look at yourself and you're going, man, look at this life I created. Look at how busy I am. Look at how much stuff I have got going on. What would have happened if I would have quit 2 years ago? What would
Right.
have happened if I would have said no 6 months ago? You're going to be so much further along than you would have been, right? Even if you
Yeah.
don't get to where you want to go, it's incredible when you start to go, man, I know how productive I can be, and I know how productive I am. And this is not a pat on the back of Ryan Bean by any stretch of the means, but I
Hmm.
probably do the work of three people, right? And that's just the reality.
Hmm.
But I don't look at it that way. But in reality, when I think about how much I get accomplished in a 24-hour period, it's probably what the equivalent of what three typical
Hmm.
normal people get done. And I want to take on more, right? It's
Yeah.
like, it's not that I'm trying to take on less. I'm like, okay, how much more can I take on?
Well, we just think
Yeah,
and we act differently.
we do.
I had a conversation with my admin last week about a certain issue in with a transaction, and she goes, "Elena, you are one of the best. You're one of the best because you're very detailed and you always think ahead. But you have to realize not a lot of people think like you."
They don't.
Because I made the comment, I'm like, it's common sense. Like, how does this person not know this, right? And she goes, It makes sense to you because you're very good at what you do."
Yeah,
She's like, but a lot of people aren't at your level, so they don't think
right.
that way,
They don't.
you
And
know?
most
So
people don't. But it's our job to
mhm.
to teach them.
Train them.
Yeah, and to just teach them to have the right mentality.
Hmm.
I'm struggling with that with Dylan right now,
Hmm.
and it's funny because my wife always brings me back to earth, and
Hmm.
it's why I talk about her a lot on this podcast, on this platform. I don't think she ever listens to any of these episodes, but I know
I don't
someone
know,
out
maybe with
there,
this new wave.
maybe, but I know someone else, other people are out there listening, and
Yeah.
I am so grateful for her.
Hmm.
Anyway, just I am,
Well,
and
she's
she
been a
brings
great
me back down
co-pilot
to
for me.
earth
Yeah.
so much. And, me and Dylan were going at it, back and forth. And I think what frustrates me with Dylan is that he is so opposite of me
Mm-hmm.
on how he gets fired up. Things to him that are a huge deal to me that drive me insane are just so minimal to him. He doesn't get riled up. He doesn't have a bad temper for the most part. He loves to argue. He always wants to be right, which he gets that from his mom,
Yeah, I was just
100%,
gonna
because
say
he
that.
can never just say he's wrong, which is something that he needs to continue to work on, just like his
Hmm.
mom does. He needs to be able to say, you know what, I was wrong, and be okay with saying the words "I am wrong," because he will
Hmm.
argue his point to the death. But me and him go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I think what it is that he looks at things so differently, and just so much like, Dad, we'll get to it when we get to it. Like, what's
Hmm.
the rush? Why are you so, with me, it's like, this has to get done. Here's my
Very
checklist.
urgent. Yeah,
Here's
we
my
have a lot of
structure.
urgency.
Dylan's like, if it takes me a couple extra days to get it done, I'm going to eventually get it done. What's the big deal? And that mentality drives me insane. So me and him are like oil and water, and we butt heads. And I've got to adapt, though. Those are things that I've got
Hmm.
to. And I told Allison after our conversation, she's like, Ryan, you keep texting him and you keep going back and forth with him, and you can realize that you're not going to win the argument, right? You're
Hmm.
not going to give, he's not going to give, and 37 text messages later, the result's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
But what it made me realize is that I need to sit down with my son, similar to what I did with my daughter a couple months ago. No cell phones, no social distractions,
Hmm.
nothing. Just take him and just go have a man-to-man talk with him, so that we can have a better understanding of where each other is coming from.
You
And
need
I
to take,
think,
you need
yeah,
to go in April and go fishing with him, and that'll be
hmm,
in his natural, what
yeah,
is it, like relaxed environment.
yeah,
One, you're gonna bond with him, but he can't go anywhere. He'll
yeah,
be on the
no.
boat.
No, we absolutely got to do that, and it just highlighted it. And she's like, "Why don't
Yeah,
you just try talking to your son more?"
yeah.
And
Well, it's
and
different. A
again,
father son relationship's different than a
yeah,
father daughter too, because
it is.
you naturally have like those higher expectations. I know people don't want to admit that, but it's true.
Well, it is, and you also understand what kind of man you want him to be for his family, right?
Yeah.
And I think Dylan's gonna be that way. But
Hmm.
this is the part that you have to understand is, even though I've got a lot of good traits to be in that position,
Hmm.
so does Dylan. And
Hmm.
just because Dylan might do it differently than I did it, right, doesn't make his way wrong. It
Yeah.
means I disagree with his path, but the result can still be the same, right? So
Hmm.
I have to look at it that way. And I think that Dylan doesn't understand me. I don't think
Hmm.
Dylan understands how I was raised and how I came up and how much responsibility I had to take on at a young age. And I've worked my ass off so that
Hmm.
he could be in a position where he could be a kid, go to college, get these experiences, not have to move out at 17 years old and take on the world's responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that it's made him weaker to a degree. So that's on me, right? And again,
Hmm.
it goes back to taking accountability. I can't be mad at the type of person he is when I put him in that position.
Right.
So, but most parents don't do that, right? They keep forcing
Do it my way.
their thoughts, their beliefs, do it my way, and your way's wrong, and my way's right
Hmm.
because I lived it. And I look back and go, you know what? I probably did a lot of things wrong, and let me have this conversation with Dylan.
Yeah.
But I think we just at that point where he's 18 years old, he's entering
Hmm.
manhood, and it's time to have a different kind of conversation. I need to have a conversation with him like he is a grown man,
Yeah.
not
I
like
say
he's a
this to
child
you,
anymore.
and I'm saying it to myself because I'm the same way, that we have to understand if the goal is four, 2 + 2 = 4, 3 + 1 = 4, right? All
Mm-hmm.
different variations equal 4, but as long as we're on the same page that we want to get to the number 4,
Mm-hmm.
that's what matters.
Sure, I agree.
And
That's great
that
advice.
I'm gonna have the same issues with my kids because I even have it with Cole. Let's be honest. In the business, I'm like, no, it needs to happen this way. He's like, okay, but I'm still doing it this way and getting it done. The end result will be done. But like that's just how my brain works, right? Like I created the systems. This is what happens. And he actually corrected me on I forget what it was, but a different system. He's like, why don't you do it this way? It actually save you a few steps. And I
Right.
was like, my stubborn ass at first was like, no, but then
No,
then I
because
kind of
why? Because
analyzed the
I said
situation. I'm
no.
like,
Yeah.
dang it, he's right.
Yeah.
But I didn't let him know, and I know he's not going to listen to this podcast. So
They never listen to us. They hear too much of us. What Allison says.
yeah,
Allison goes, "Why would I listen to the podcast? I hear you say the same stuff all the time, all the time, all over.
yeah,
I don't need to hear it twice." But
yeah. Okay, well, I want to end the podcast on a quote that I saw a couple
okay,
days ago because, like I
lay it
said,
on
we
me.
kind of we kind of recapped on like I feel like things were breaking down. before it's getting rebuilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I remember specifically telling Cole, it was 3 weeks ago, because I felt like just stuff was not going my way with real estate. I'm like, why did I have such the year that I had last year for then the beginning of the year to start like doors are slamming in my face, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I told Cole, I was like, why would God punish me that way? And then I saw this quote a few weeks ago, and ever since then, like I just have become a new person, right? How the way I think. And it was, of course, things are falling apart because you have to lose your old self to become your new self.
Yeah, I love it. It's like we always
And
say,
so when you
right?
think
Right when
about
you
them,
think
like,
you're at the end, it's right when you're about to level up, girl.
and that's
It's
what it
right when you
said.
think. Yeah,
Things break down right before you're about to level up. And I told Cole, I was like, it makes sense because I wanted
yeah.
something bigger this year. And I can't be who I was last year to be bigger this year,
No,
bigger
and
and better.
it's and again, you're doing the right things, and like I said, you're focusing on you, and you're focusing on being the best version of yourself, and you're focused on being 1% better. You talk about this all the time. How do we become 1% better each day? And the other things in your life, just all of a sudden, again, I posted this on one of my most recent reels. It
Hmm.
feels like things are coming to you easier. They're not coming to you easier. You're looking at it from a
Hmm.
very different angle. It's
Hmm.
literally how you are reacting to it. It's how you are taking those signs and not being the victim and just changing it. So I love
Yeah.
the quote. I love getting back on the microphone with you. It's been too long since we've got a chance to really catch up, and I'm grateful for you. I'm happy for you. I'm super proud of where you are and where your family is. And I love the things that are falling into place for you and your team. I love the fact that Cole's recovering faster than anticipated. And
Yes.
I think we just got to continue to lean into being grateful and just the
I'm
gratitude
excited
that
for
we
our
have.
year.
Yeah, I am too. So this will be a new format for everyone that stuck with us over the last few weeks. We wanted to
Yeah.
try something different. I think this is going to make the most sense. I think it's going to offer more consistency from Elena and myself, as well, as we are two very, very busy people that
Hmm.
juggle a lot in our life. So hopefully you
But
guys
we
found
got some
something.
stuff to say.
Always do, always do. So enjoy your week this next week. Kick ass. We'll catch up next Friday, and hopefully we have just as positive of a week next week as we did this one.
Sounds good. See you
Take
next week.
care. See ya.
Bye.